Then the voice which I heard from heaven spoke to me again and said, Go, take the little book which is open in the hand of the Malach who stands on the sea and on the earth. Go, take the little sefer, the little scroll which is open in the hand of the Malach who stands on the sea and on the earth. So I went to the Malach. Remember that the Malach represents Mikael. Yahuchanan represents Yahuchanan the Immerser. They have the same name. Yahuchanan the Immerser was Elijah. As Yahushua said, if you can receive it, he is Eliyahu who was to come. So, Yahuchanan, the Revelator, in this case, represents Yahuchanan the Immerser. That's why he's being told to go to the Malach and get the book from him, get the revelation from him, because Eliyahu must come to the witness like Moshe in order to receive the doctrine for which they will both die. So Yahuchanan and Mikael as the witness like Eliyahu and the witness like Moshe. Yahuchanan goes to get the book from the Malach, for Eliyahu must get the teaching from the witness like Moshe, just like Aharon received the teaching from his brother Moshe. So then the voice which I heard from heaven spoke to me. So the Father also, it's interesting that when the Messiah asked the disciples who he was, who he is, Peter said, You are the Messiah. And the Messiah said that was revealed by the Father, for flesh and blood cannot reveal those things of the Spirit. So to be able to understand and know who the two witnesses are, only the Father Almighty can reveal it. Only the Father can reveal who the two witnesses are. Even themselves cannot reveal it, in the sense that they must give honor to the Messiah, not to look for honor for themselves, for then their testimony would be void. No. So they, just like the Messiah came to give honor to the Father, now the witness like Moshe comes to give honor to the Son. So only the Father can reveal who are the two witnesses. The two witnesses, I repeat, won't be saying out loud who they are. They won't be claiming to be. That would only be revealed to their sheep, their people. And I say sheep in the sense that he comes as the good shepherd. So the sheep hear the voice of the good shepherd, recognize him, and go after him. We see here, then the voice which I heard from heaven, meaning the Father, spoke to Yahuchanan and told him, Go to him. So the Father will tell the people who are chosen to go to the witness like Moshe, who is giving the teaching. So the Father will reveal to the people who is Mikael, who is the witness like Moshe, who is the one whom they must listen for the revelation. So then the voice which I heard from heaven spoke to me again and said, Go, take the little book which is open in the hand of the Malach, who stands on the sea and on the earth. Who stands, just like we saw in Daniel, that Mikael will stand up. He will stand on the earth and the sea, meaning he will go and preach to the people of Yahweh, the land, and to the nations, the sea. So I went to the Malach and said to him, Give me the little book, representing Eliyahu going to Moshe and asking him to receive, to give him the revelation. And he said to me, Take and eat it, and it will make your stomach bitter, but it will be as sweet as honey in your mouth. So this is also connected to what happened with Ezekiel and other parts of scripture. Ezekiel is called Son of Man many times. Ezekiel represents the second coming, the last, the witness like Moshe. So that's why he goes through something very similar to this. When it comes to scriptures, to knowledge, knowledge is sweet in our mouth when we get to read it, know it, explain it. But when we get to understand it, as when we digest food, it is bitter, for it teaches us what we are doing wrong, what we must change, what we must do, the plagues that are coming, the fact that people that we love may suffer, and that is bitterness. So here we see the connection of that book that the Malach had with scriptures. And the Malach himself is saying that everything will be revealed, the mystery will be finished. That's why the book was open on his hand, because now everything can be read. Yet only those who eat of the book, meaning only those who go to the witness like Moshe to receive the revelation from him. So the witness like Moshe, as Mikael, is bringing an open book. When you call a person an open book is when that person is sincere, honest, reveals everything regarding himself. So the last comes with an open book because he comes to reveal the scriptures in a clear way, not as Yahushua, who explained it through parables. So the last comes with an open book. The people, as the witness like Eliyahu, who is represented by Yohanan, must go to the witness like Moshe and ask for that knowledge. He will give that knowledge, but that knowledge will be bitter once it is understood. For part of that knowledge is the suffering that the world will go through and all of that. Hope that's understood. So I went to the Malach and said to him, give me the little scroll. And he said to me, take and eat it, and it will make your stomach bitter. The knowledge of it, the understanding of that knowledge, will bring bitterness. I already said what? Then it says, but it will be as sweet as honey in your mouth. Sweet as honey. It is written that the words of Yahweh are as sweet as honey. So the words that were found on that little book were the words of Yahweh. So it was a revelation from the Father, given to Yohanan through the Malach. Take and eat it, and it will make your stomach bitter, but it will be as sweet as honey in your mouth. In Ezekiel verse 1, it says, Son of Man. So we see there that Ezekiel is called Son of Man, which is a title used for Messiah. Yet Messiah himself used it in the third person, because he was talking about himself and about the second coming. And even when he was talking about himself, it was, as I always say, what one fulfills spiritually, the other one will fulfill in the literal sense. Yahushua fulfilled being the Son of Man spiritually, for he was son of Joseph, yet Joseph did not put his seed on Miriam. So Miriam was a virgin when she had Mashiach. That's why we read in Genesis 3 that Messiah would be called the seed of the woman, because he would come from a virgin. But the Son of Man, in the literal sense, represents the second coming. So when it comes to the literal sense, the first is the seed of a woman, and the last is the Son of Man. But since the Messiah came as a man and as a son, he could also use that title. Yet he would use it in the third person because he was referring to the last coming to earth, and that's why he would say, the coming of the Son of Man will be like the days of Noah. The coming of the Son of Man will be like Lot. Here we are seeing that Yahweh was calling Ezekiel Son of Man. So Ezekiel represents the second coming. Moreover, he said to me, Son of man, eat what you find. Eat this scroll, and go speak to the house of Israel. So just like Yahuhanan was given a scroll to eat, here we are seeing Ezekiel getting a scroll to eat as the two witnesses. Ezekiel the last, witness like Moshe. Yahuhanan, as I was mentioning, like Eliyahu, in this sense. So Ezekiel is given a scroll, a book. He eats it, and then he's told to go and teach. So to read a book is to eat it. To get to understand is to digest it. So even if he was given a vision in which he actually ate a book, which would be like what would happen in a dream. In a dream, one could eat a book and it wouldn't seem weird in the dream. So that could have happened in the vision, but it represents the reading of the book. So it could also have happened through the symbolism, being told and he understanding what that meant, and he just wrote that he ate it as a metaphor. But my point is that through reading this, we should understand what eating a book means. So speak to the house of Israel. So the last comes after eating the book, reading the scriptures, receiving the revelation, so that he can talk to the people and give them knowledge of it. Speak to the house of Israel. So I opened my mouth, and he caused me to eat the scroll. And he said to me, Son of man, feed your belly and fill your stomach with this scroll that I give you. So I ate, and it was in my mouth like honey in sweetness. Then he said to me, Son of man, go to the house of Israel and speak with my words to them. For you are not sent to a people of unfamiliar speech and of hard language, but to the house of Israel. So we see there that he ate the book, the scroll, which was sweet in his mouth, meaning there were the words of Yahweh, and he went to speak to the house of Israel those words which he had just eaten. So going back to Revelation 10. Verse 9, so I went to the Malach and said to him, give me the little book. And he said to me, take it and eat it, and it will make your stomach bitter, but it will be as sweet as honey in your mouth. Then I took the little book out of the angel's hand and ate it. Out of the angel's hand. The last represents the hand of Yahweh. So from the hand of Yahweh is that one must receive that knowledge. And it was as sweet as honey in my mouth, just as it is sweet to confess the name of the Father and the Son. It is sweet to be able to receive his revelation, the knowledge of him. But when I had eaten it, my stomach became bitter. But when we receive it, the flesh fights against it. The flesh doesn't want to be subject to the Spirit. We must, by the use of willpower, we must subject the flesh to the commandments, to the truth, to the Messiah. But the flesh will fight against it. So it will be bitter for the flesh to know, for instance, when it comes to those that will die, it is bitter for the flesh to know that it has to die. It is bitter for the flesh to know that this world is temporal, even though flesh itself knows that it is temporal. So my point is, even though the flesh dies, the human rejects the thought of dying through his or her entire life until the time comes. And many really fight with that moment of passing through to the other life. And I'm saying all of that in the sense that it is sweet to the spirit, to the soul, but it is bitter to the flesh. And the other interpretation that I already mentioned, it has to do with how sweet it is to know the Father and to have the knowledge that he has given us, but it is bitter to know that we have failed him in our lives. It is bitter to know that people will have to suffer, that people we love are in a lie. That is bitterness. But when I had eaten it, my stomach became bitter. And he said to me, you must prophesy again about many peoples, nations, tongues, and kings. There are some who, because of this, believe that John the Revelator, Yahushua, would have to be reincarnated in the end times to come and preach again because of what is being said here. And like I said, he is a representation of Eliyahu, so that could be what is being said here, that he is the representation of Eliyahu, and in his life, even after this moment, he had to still preach, he had to still teach what he had received. And after this moment, he still had some of the revelation to write and give it to us. And through his revelation, through his writings, he would speak and preach to us even throughout the past 2,000 years. So he fulfilled it even after death. But some take it to mean that he would have to come back again to this earth, reincarnated, either as one of the two witnesses, which would fulfill the part of Eliyahu, or as one of the 144,000. And he said to me, you must prophesy again about many peoples. We see that it is very similar to what we saw with Ezekiel. Ezekiel was told, eat the book and now go and preach. John was told, eat the book, you still need to prophesy. And he said to me, you must prophesy again about many peoples. Here we are ending pretty much the first half of the last 7. So it could also be seen as Yahushua being told, you still have 3.5 years to reveal. You still have 3.5 years of plagues to write about. So you must prophesy again. You must prophesy again about many peoples, the nations that will be left on earth after the transformation, after the harvest. Nations, tongues, and kings. When we read Revelation 13, we see that all peoples from all nations, all tongues, all peoples will need to get a mark, the mark of the beast. And they will all be condemned because they all knew about the mark of the beast that was written on scriptures and that will be also taught by the 2 witnesses. So not only the revelation of the Father is given for us to get to know him, but it's also given to condemn those that reject him. For they won't have an excuse, for they knew. And not only they knew from hearing, they also had access to the writing, and they had time to study it, and they were told to reject it, etc., etc., meaning the mark of the beast. So when he said to me, you must prophesy again about many peoples, nations, tongues, and kings.